Hey everybody, thank you for visiting the channel and welcome to the new series, Initiation into the Mysteries of the Ancient World. Now this is going to be a good one, ladies and gentlemen. I've been working out, if you're watching my videos, I've been really trying to get everything together with all this. If you know my channel, I like to talk about ancient history when it came to the Greeks, the Romans, the Egyptians, the Persians, all these cultures, even the Phoenicians. But in this series, I really want to give you all a more academic view when it comes to these mystery cults and all of these different, I hate to say the word pagan, but I love my pagans. But all of these different cultures and all these mysteries that developed them to the Greeks and the Romans. So in this series, that's what we'll be doing. We'll be talking about different cults that we're going through this time. And as you see from the headline, we're doing part one is the Elusian mysteries. This is really important now. This is going to tie mostly what to my channel pertains to, because if you watch my channel, I like to give you guys certain information to where we can put everything all together and form everything together and to have a big conclusion into everything. So one big reason for this is, I can't stress this enough, the ancients had something going on. There's no ifs, ands, buts about it. And if you would just understand these stories, that they're not just kid stories, they're actually stories that pertain to the world, the universe, and to ourselves. But I'm getting way ahead of myself. But I want to get into it. But before we begin, if you know me, I give you all my sources. I'm not someone that's just going to just stand up here and just ramble on about things. So, like I said, my sources, first one, it's going to be Ancient Mystery Cults by Walker Booker. Good read. Another is Initiation into the Mysteries of the Ancient World. Actually, what my series is titled by Jan A. Bramer. And the last one, my really special book. This is the foundation, ladies and gentlemen. This book cost me a lot, and that is the Mystery Cults of the Ancient World by Hugh Baldwin. Again, you can find all of these on Amazon, but this one, these are expensive books, as you'll see. But so these are the main books that I will be using to give you my case and give you evidence into a more academic look into these mystery cults that thrive in history. And actually how all these cults actually pertain to this day and age too, which we'll be going into. So well, I hope you all really like this. We'll be doing some more in the future, but we got to start here. And so other than that, I want to say I hope you guys love the presentation, and let's get right into it. The Elusian mysteries. All right, guys, let's do it. So now, what exactly is the Elusian mysteries? And the Elusian mysteries were the secret rituals or initiations held every year at the Eleusis, Greece. They are the most famous of the secret religious rites of ancient Greece. It was known as the most mysterious of the ancient Greek world. The mysteries cult celebrated the sacred story of Demeter and Persephone. The rites of the mysteries were closely related to the myth of Demeter and her daughter Persephone, and their tragic separation and joyful reunion served as the catalyst for the spiritual enlightenment of the initiations. The rituals intended to evoke an overwhelming and infallible experience. By using the symbolic reading for the basis of their rituals, it provided initiates with a vision of eternal life in triumph over death. The vision would be so powerful that participants felt freed from their fear of death to the recognition that they were immortal souls, temporarily in mortal bodies. Since the initiated were sworn to secrecy as to the details of the ritual, we do not know what form these rituals took. The rites, cultic worships, and beliefs were kept secret, as they were believed to unite the worship with the gods and included promises of divine powers and rewards in the afterlife. So, for the story for Demeter and Persephone, there's multiple stories that we can use for this, but one in particular that has last draw is the Homeric hymn to Demeter. And you can all look up this story yourselves online. I'm gonna just do a quick little story view of it, so I can get to many of the other aspects of the Elusian mystery. But this is the story of Demeter, Persephone, and the Elusian mysteries of how it all took place. So, as we start here, the Homeric Persephone was the daughter of Demeter and Zeus. The hymn begins by describing how, with the consent of Zeus, but without the knowledge of Demeter, Persephone was carried off by Hades, god of the underworld and brother of Zeus, while she was picking flowers in the meadow. The event was witnessed by the goddess Hecate, and Persephone's screams were heard by Helios, the sun. However, Demeter spent 9 days traveling over the earth, carrying torches and looking for her daughter, before Hecate and Helios told her what had happened. Angry with Zeus, Demeter withdrew from the Mount Olympus, the home of the gods, and wandered the earth in disguise. When she reached Eleusis, she was greeted by daughters of the king, Celsus, and offered her services as a nurse. She was invited into their house, where she declined to sit on a chair. Preferring to sit on a stool covered with a fleece, she was made to smile by the jokes of a woman present there. IMB, and after refusing a cup of wine, accepted a drink of kykeon, made with barley, mint, and water. Matronian, Celsus' wife, then asked Demeter to nurse her newborn son, Demophoon. Demeter agreed to do so, but instead of feeding him, she anointed him with ambrosian and put him into the fire every night. One night Mercury spied on Demeter's action, but her shrieks gave her away. Demeter explained that she had been making Demophoon immortal, that now she could not continue. She revealed her true nature and demanded that the people of Eleusis build her a temple, promising that she would reveal rites from them to perform in order to soften her anger. And to throw in there, you could kind of see why also the wife was kind of concerning, because she's over here supposed to be nursing this child, but she's actually putting the child in fire. But you can see how this is symbolic with fire's purification, a cleansing. So this is a metaphor, allegories, people. So she wasn't literally burning. Of course, this is a story, but it's all allegories, saying as like a cleansing, a purification. So just wanted to give you all that. Demeter then stopped grain from growing across the earth. This threatened not only mortals who faced famine, but the gods too, who would be deprived of sacrifices. Zeus therefore appealed to Demeter to return to Olympus, and when Demeter demanded as her price the return of Persephone, he sent Hermes, the messenger god, to ask Hades to release her. This Hades did, but first he gave her a pomegranate seed to eat. When mother and daughter were reunited, Persephone told Demeter what had happened, and Demeter explained that because Persephone had eaten food in the other world, she would have spent a third of each of the year there. Zeus sent Rhea, his own and Demeter's mother, to palpate Demeter, And at last she was reconciled with the gods and let the crane grow again. Demeter then taught the rites of the mysteries to the rulers of Eleusis. So as you can see, at the heart of this myth is the explanation of the cycles of agriculture. And the time that Persephone spends in Hades is the cycle is a representation of the time of barren. So as I said before, this is all about the seasons, agriculture, astrology, because if you know about the positions and the time where the sun is placed, you know when certain time to for crops will grow and crops will die. Spring, summer, spring, summer, fall, winter, as you all know. So this is their way of explaining all of this to the common people. But if you didn't know the deeper meanings of the stories, which the elites know, you wouldn't get all this. But for the lesser initiates, this is all they knew, these stories to explain all this. So just want to get that out there for you all. And what's interesting is that in Greece, winter is the busiest time for that culture, as in burying all their stuff, to have everything ready for the upcoming disarray when it came to winter. So you can kind of see the parallels when it comes to the stories and how the Greeks actually acted and personified this deity to represent this time of the year, going through the progress of growing crops and putting stuff away for the winter, and then having spring come back again. So just to give it to you guys a little bit more in context. So now, I want to get into the main players that's going to be playing a big role into this mystery, and that is Demeter, Persephone, and Hades. There's more other gods that are a part of this story, but these three are the main ones that I want to focus on as they portray to the Homeric hymn, which actually this derives from. And let's start off with Demeter. And so the Elusian mysteries were based on a legend concerning Demeter, the ancient Greek goddess of agriculture and fertility of the earth. As recounted in one of the Homeric hymns in 650 BC, though Demeter is often described as just a goddess of the harvest, she has praise also over the sacred law in the cycle of life and death. So you can see how she plays a pivotal role into all of this. And you see why she is could be a personification of life and death also. Demeter is a deity, the middle daughter and second child overall, born after Hestia of Cronus and Rhea, and sister of Hestia, Hera, Poseidon, Hades, Zeus, and Chiron, half-brother. She also one of the original 12 Olympians. Just like all her siblings, she was swallowed and later, following an intervention by Zeus, regurgitated by her father. Even though Demeter was one of the sisters of the supreme god, Zeus, they had a daughter together, Persephone, who was kidnapped by Hades and became the queen of the underworld. And according to the Greeks, Demeter was the most generous goddess of the Olympians, and she had many troubled and painful times. During her time, her symbols were the sickle and the apples, the grains, and the cornucopia. Many of Demeter's symbols have a connection to agriculture and to the earth, but they also carry a strong connotation of death and the underworld. The torches she sometimes carried, for example, linked to the both of the story were Catholic symbols. While they could be found sunning themselves on rocks during the day, they were more often associated with dark holes in the earth and hidden shadows. A big fruit that was contributed to Demeter was the poppy seed. The poppy was sacred to Demeter as it is a flower commonly found growing amongst the grain of the wheat fields. Poppies are brightly colored flowers that grow in bright sunlight, But the Greeks were familiar with the plant that used to produce opium. So, just to segue a little bit, yes, and I will be touching this too because, be honest, some drugs played a part into these initiations, and I will be touching that a little bit later on. So, all these civilizations used them, and you'll see why. So, to continue, even her sacred flower could have a darker connotation. The beautiful flowers worn by Demeter's priestesses was also the color of blood and could be used as a sedative or even a poison. So you may be asking yourself, so why does the goddess who made this grow so closely be associated with death? It is unusual in ancient cultures for agriculture deities, particularly those concerned with plant growth, were often connoted being as well. The Greeks believed that the underworld played a key role of the cycle of life. The dead were buried within the earth and went to the underworld beneath it. Beneath that same soil, the seeds grew into the food crops, germinated. The Greeks recognized that death and decay were vital to make the foods that they intended to grow. In the cycle of life and death, the breakdown of dead material nourished the plants, eventually nourishing humans. The Greeks recognized that death and the new life were part of a continuous cycle. Without death, enriching the cycle, the plants living humans relied on could not grow in the fields of Greece. So, as you see that early on, and this is around 6 BC, where they understood the life cycle of plants and then the decay, life, and death, because you need both, of course, to succeed, as in another metaphor, the light and the darkness. So pay attention and seeing these ancients have something going on, I'm telling you. But to continue with the second catalyst to all of this story is Persephone. And this is Demeter's daughter, and we'll see what role she plays in this story. Persephone, also known as Cora or Cora, is the daughter of Zeus and Demeter. The Romans called her Persephone. Her myths explain the change of the seasons, making her a very important part of Greek culture. As a young girl, Persephone was described as shy and beautiful. She spent her days camping in the fields and playing in fresh streams. She became the queen of the underworld after her abduction by her uncle, Hades, the king of the underworld. She was the goddess of spring growth, vegetation, and agriculture, and was worshipped alongside her mother, Demeter, in the Eleusian mysteries. As a vegetation goddess, the goddess of spring bounty, Persephone was often referred to as Cora, signifying both daughter and maiden. Persephone was usually depicted as a beautiful young goddess with fair skin. Her hair is the epitome of young beauty. She is often shown in long flowing clothing or robe, with a wreath of flowers around her head. Holding a torch, scepter, or stalks to her grain, sometimes she was shown in the company of her mother, Demeter, and the hero Triptolemus, the teacher of agriculture. At other times, she appears enthroned beside Hades. Having the title of the Queen of the Underworld leads to believe her appearance is unattractive and the opposite is actually true. And to throw in here right now, like, before me figuring this out too, I was just like, wow, if you're queen of the other world, like, wouldn't you have like these grotesque looks and stuff like that? But no, actually, she's like a fair maiden. So that's actually interesting to point out that they would give her this role, but then still have the side of the beauty. And I'm just showing duality, ladies and gentlemen. Due to Persephone being the goddess of spring, she was often associated with spring-themed symbols and many aspects of nature. These symbols include wreaths of flowers, reeds, lilies, waterfalls, springs, rivers, and precious gems were all associated with her in various forms. Any so now, when it comes to where the mysteries took place, we could look no other place than Greek, of course. So, where they took place at lay in the territory of the city of Athens, some 20 kilometers from the city itself, near the bordering neighbor city of Megara. The earliest remains in this area of the century of the Middle and Core date back to the Bronze Age. The Bronze Age is the historic period approximately 3300 BC to 1200 BC that was characterized by the use of bronze in some areas writings and the other features of the urban civilizations. But whatever the structures that were there at the time were abandoned around 1200 BC at the end of the Mycenaean civilization. And the Mycenaean civilization was located on the Greek mainland, mostly on the Peloponnese, the southern peninsula of Greece. The Mycenaeans are the first Greeks. In other words, they were the first people to speak Greek, the language, and it represents the first advanced, distinctively Greek civilization in mainland Greece with the Patelier states, urban organization, works of arts, and writing system. The Mycenaean civilization thrived between 1650 BC to 1200 BC, and the site was abandoned until the 8th century BC. Those recent discoveries that the evidence shows that the continuous occupation of the site from then until probably 395 AD, when Eleusis was sacked by the Goths under the Alaric and the Goths were Germanic people who played a major role in the fall of Western Roman Empire and the emergence of the Medical Europe. And just to throw a little information about the Mycenaean people, they actually derived from the Phoenicians, from Byblos in Tyre. They actually migrated there, so they actually were Phoenicians. And if you want more information about the roots of the Mycenaean civilization and where they actually came from, give a book here, Phoenicians by Sanford Holst. And man, he goes in, he gives so much information in my notes pertaining to Mycenaean people, and that's showing that they actually had their roots from the Phoenicians. And if you know about the Phoenicians, they were credited as giving the first Greek alphabet, and they actually got their proto-alphabet from the Egyptians. So just pointing that out there, people. But again, yep, that's Phoenicians by Sanford Holst. So just wanted to throw that in there if you guys want to do an extra read upon that. But I continue. But by the time Greece had long been part of the Roman Empire, and when Christianity had become the dominant religion of the empire, but through this it seems there was not any attempt to reconstruct the sanctuary after the sack, and it seems this was the end of the mysteries taking place in this certain area. The sanctuary at Eleusis. Now I could supplement this information of the traveler writer Pausius, who wrote a detailed description of Greece in the 2nd century AD. But Pausius had a dream where he stated that he was to say nothing of the interior of the sanctuary, but nonetheless, this shows the importance of this cult to the ancient Greeks and how this held this to a high degree. But trust me, I'm actually a little sad that he didn't spell it. The sanctuary, like, come on, like, I wanted to see this too. Give me the info, man. In some ways, it was the same as the other sanctuaries, of course. We know that the other sanctuaries dedicated to gods, like Zeus, Ammon in Egypt, and the others like Apollo in Delphi. But the central structures found nearly all the sanctuaries, a temple, and an altar were adjacent. During these times, the altar was a place where animals were brought and sacrificed to the deity, and was located near the front of the temple, which housed the statue of the deity. Most cult activities pertain mostly outside to be closer to the elements, and plus being able to see the stars also was a big part of the cult. And you'll see astrology was a major factor in these mysteries. So I would say if you guys want a more detailed look into this, please study astrology. If you've been watching my channels, I tell you, astrology is one of the biggest things about all these mysteries and even to the Bible. Because I showed you that the verse talking about the fall, about how Lucifer you have fallen, and when you do your etymology, you see that he's actually talking about Venus. And it's plain to see. It's right there in my video. I'll let it there for you, and I'll leave the link, of course. But if you want to do a little bit more, I would say these are the books I would recommend. And the first one is Hellenistic Astrology by Chris Ganman. Because I keep telling you, this is the Hellenistic age, so they use astrology for a bunch of things. And when it comes to Venus, I will be continuing that video, I promise. I apologize about that all, but I told you, certain people, certain groups love Venus, aka Lucifer. There ain't no boogeyman. So just want to get this out here. Don't be afraid of the boogeyman. They place him there. They place the boogeyman there to scare us away from certain things. And that's what showed me Venus Star Rising was a great one. It explains so much about Venus, and you'll see why they like it. So I will be making a video continuing about Venus. So just want to put that out there for you guys. But to continue, but interestingly enough, there hasn't been any findings of any cult statues of Demeter at Eleusis, nor anything that contributed to a temple. So that was a very interesting finding for this area. I mean, there was an altar just outside, just like other sanctuaries, but it seemed that generally inside the sanctuaries, Demeter was generally not offered sacrificial victims. And I believe this to be the reason as the meeting of the cult, and that there was actually a lesser and higher degrees of the mysteries. Both I'll be touching upon a little later. So, like I said, I alluded to this earlier. There's the outer circle and there's the inner circle. And if you know about secret societies, this is exactly what they have too. People that know some information that's on the outside, but when you get deeper into the inner circles, this is where you learn everything more, the good stuff. You know what I mean? Yeah, good information. So I will be touching upon that later. But the central building in the sanctuary was the Telestриon, the Hall of the Mysteries, where the most secrets and off-limit information about the rituals took place. Its final form would have been a very large square building with a roof supported by a force of columns, with steps so that people standing in the back could see over the heads of the other members. The Telestриon contained a smaller structure, sometimes called by archaeologists as the Anectron, and by the 5th and 6th century, it was able to house 3,000 people. Now, this would have been a sight to see. And I tell you, I wish I could have seen this event unfold, man. I mean, just can you just imagine all these people here gathered around for this ritual that's about to partake? I mean, this could be your neighbors, politicians, just a wide variety of people attending this and coming together. So it must have been a really big event. So, but what was interesting is that the word means palace, referring to the house of Celeus, where in the Homeric hymn we talked about earlier, where Demeter revealed herself to the Elusians in antiquity. The term Anacton and telesterion were both used to refer to the structures as a whole. Now, to identify the common initiate uniquely, for Greek festivals, the mysteries were open to men, women, free, enslaved, young and old Greeks, and non-Greeks. Yet, not everyone could afford the mystery's perspective. Initiates first had to complete a whole series of ritual acts. As we know from the church of Father Clement of Alexandria, about AD 200, who stated, quote, I fasted, I drank the kykeon, like the Demeter in the Homeric hymn to the Demeter. I took from the hamper, after working I deposited in the basket, and from the basket in the hamper. From this we can see that the clear elusive acts intentionally left obscure, but by putting this together you can get an understanding of the mysteries. But like I said, there were two mysteries, the lesser mysteries and the greater mysteries. And the lesser, it was had to be performed either in the spring, 7 months earlier, and mostly for the commoners who could afford it at the time, and perhaps more likely at some other time because the receptacles of the lesser mysteries were much lower than those of the greater ones. Mostly, I would say, for the elites. And as I told you earlier, if you know about certain other cults, well, fraternities, let's just say that, like the Masons, where I'll be making a video, there's an outer circle and there's an inner circle. Where in the outer circle, you know some things, but you don't know all the deep info that projects you into it. So, like I said, I wanted to put it out and to give you all a little reference. I know I do a lot of books, but this is to show you guys that I do my homework and I want to give you guys all this for information. So, The Ancient Mysteries and Modern Masonry by Charles B. Vale, 1866. Like I said, you all can find this on Amazon, and I'm going to read a segment from there right now. In Egypt, we find the same method in practice. For Clement says, the Egyptians did not entrust the mysteries. They possessed to all and sundry, and did not divulge the knowledge of divine things to the profane. He also informs us that the Sphinx, erratic in front of the temples and places of initiation, denoted silence and secrecy, that all sacred truth is enfolded in symbolic fables and all allegories, and he says of the mysteries, those who instituted the mysteries, being philosophers, buried their doctrines in myths, so as not to be obvious to all. The Strutman, Book 5, Chapter 6 and Chapter 9. The sages of Greece, according to Pausanias, never ruled otherwise than in an intellectual manner. They concealed their knowledge under the veil of fiction, so taught the vulgar might not comprehend. And another from the book, page 23, the objective of the mysteries. The object of the mysteries was the instruction and development of man. There were the work of genius employing the sciences and a profound knowledge of the human heart in a task of purifying the soul and seeking man's felicity by the means of virtue. So, like I said, there is more to these mysteries than meets the eye. And that's why I say the people that are more in the inner circle, they know more about the science to all of this, astrology, mathematics, numerology. This is all intertwined in this. So just wanted to do a little segue for you all to give you guys a little part into it. Now, one interesting way that some average initiates were to get into the interest of the mysteries is from a word called mystagoras, which in turn would be friends and acquaintances who are already initiated in the mysteries. And also, you can see how these events would be taxing on an average person, because most had been in a position to spend the time and money, as they also had to pay a fee to the office units. All these conditions would have limited participants, mainly due to the less poor strata of the population. Now, there are other cases somewhat exceptional talking about this, but we must be aware that we simply don't know how many Athenians participated in the mysteries. But what we do have is one Greek philosopher, Plato, which is a household name. Everybody knows Plato. And his Gorgias quote, Plato has Socrates say to another speaker, metaphorically, you are fortunate in that you have been initiated in the great before the little. I did not think that that was permitted. But if this adds anything to our understanding, is that those who have been initiated in Eleusis would not subsequently undergo lesser mysteries. And another philosopher that we know of is Diodorus Siculus. And what Diodorus Siculus says about the initiate also is that, writing in the 1st century BC, the lesser mysteries were instituted by Demeter so that the hero Hercules could be purified after slaughtering the Centaurus. He makes no link with Elusian, and as we will see, ritual purification was part of those mysteries. So you can see how other people, high known people, were initiated into the mysteries and actually knew about these mysteries. So just want to say, as I said, there were the lesser and the higher mysteries, and mostly the higher were the people, the elites, people with money and the time to be ever to take part in all of these rituals and sacraments to the gods. So, yes. On the first day of the festival, the sacred herald of the mysteries made a proclamation in Athens inviting all who wished to come to Eleusis to celebrate the mysteries. This took place in Athena Agora, overseen by the Athenians magistrate responsible for the traditional festivals of the city. On the following day, those who were intended to be initiated were required to go down to the sea, taking as an act of baptism and cleansing, which closely resembles Christianity. And to dive in, Christianity is actually a mystery too, and I'll explain a little bit later, and actually show you a little bit later. But these are all mystery cults that are still standing to this day. Just want to point that out. But with them a pliglet, which they were to wash and sacrifice as an act of purification. Sacrifice tickets were commonly used in acts of purification, but the sheer numbers involved must have made this rather exciting day, as you can think about them walking down almost 3,000 people and hearing all these piglets going off. So if you guys all could just imagine this, like 3,000 people, like a flock of people just walking down the bank with all these piglets snorkeling and stuff like that, and then you're going down into the bank, into the water, and just having to use them as purification and all stuff. Squeaking and stuff like that. I mean, like, oh my god, I must have really been on site. So sorry, I had to pull that out. I just thought that was really funny. The day was known as Holiday Mystia, initiates to the sea. The next 2 days were the concern of the city officials rather than the initiates. On the third day was the major sacrifice to the Elusian goddess of the city of Elusian, and on the fourth day, the sacrifice in the honor of the gods. Eleusis put this element of the festival was added in 421 BC when a snake sacred to our Slevius were brought to Athens. From a sanctuary in Epidaurus in the northeast Peloponnese, and from the year onwards, the Athenians honored Asadlupus alongside the Elusian goddesses. Although there the festivals moved to Eleusis itself, there were two processions from Athens to Eleusis. Over the next 2 days, one was led by the priest and the priestess returned to Hera, to Alesia, and accompanied by a large number of Athenians. including the ECBs on the following day. A second procession brought the initiates themselves to life, led by a man carrying a statue of another illusion god. Equus was particularly associated with the initiate as a processor, reached the outskirts of Lucy and crossed a bridge over the river Cepheus. Within issues were mocked by a group of bystanders. This ritual mockery was called the Geophrasium, and the end of their 14-mile walk did this year. Reached the sanctuary, and the dance for the Demeter is court just outside its walls by the Keeler Cromwell. After this, no doubt, very tired indeed, initiates finally entered the sanctuary where they would begin the rites and move on to the next stage of the ritual. And to continue, before I leave this section, we have another story in Plutarch. Actually talks about it, where he doesn't explicitly talk about it, but we can see the comparison in total. So I'll show you this quote from book 2. The soul suffers an experience similar to those who celebrate great initiation. Wandering astray in the beginning, tiresome walkings in circle, some frightening paths in darkness that led nowhere. Then immediately before the end of all the terrible things, panic and shivering and sweat and bewilderment. And then some wonderful light comes to meet you. Pure regions and meadows are there to greet you, with the sounds and dances and solemn, sacred words and holy views, and their initiate, perfect by now, set free and loose from all bondage, walks about crowned with a wreath, celebrating the festival together with the other sacred and pure people. And he looks down on the uninitiated, unpurified crown in this world, in mud and fog between his feet. And another writer that I can comment is information from Lactanus, is a Christian writer writing in the beginning of the 4th century AD, comparing their rite associated with Isis and the Elusian mysteries. Quote, the mystery of Ceres, aka Demeter, also resembles these. The mysteries in which torches are lighted. The Prosperian, Cori, aka Cori, is searched for throughout the night, and when she has been found, the whole rite ends with the congratulations and a throwing about of torches. Give you more insight of other high-end philosophers, scholars coming into these mystery schools and learning from these mysteries. And now you tell me, why would they go in there in these mysteries if it's just some old tale little story? No, there's mathematics, science, astrology hidden in these stories, and this is what I'm trying to portray to you all. And this is just part 1. But yes, I'll continue on from here. Hey everybody, and just want to come to the conclusion of the Elusian Mysteries, the initiation to the mysteries, the Elusian Mysteries part 1, and give an outlook. So, as we've seen in learning about the Homeric hymn, it's clear to see that this story represents the life of going into the seasons, as you've seen, with Demeter and Persephone, as Persephone being held away for about 6 to 7 months down into Hades, hell, whatever you done in the world, if you want me to put it, and resurfacing back and spending time with her mother. Spring, fall, summer, winter. And it's just clear to see, and this is how they taught the normal people about this. So this deals with the positioning of the planets and the stars, which goes into astrology. So this is why I make it a point to show you all that there's more to these stories than meets the eye. These are all allegories. Ladies and gentlemen, These are all allegories going into these stories and even to the stories of the Bible. Yes, I said it here. You can't take all this literal. Yeah, you can, but you're not getting the deeper aspects of these stories. That's why you have the outer and the inner circle. The outer circle, yeah, they know the stories. They may know about all these gods and stuff like that, but like, say the inner circle, this is them portraying, trying to show you astrology and life and death and resurrection. Sounds familiar too? Like in the Bible, the resurrection of Jesus Christ, death and resurrections, the seasons. So just wanted to get that across. But I want to show you a page in one of the books, like I show you, Ancient Mystery Cults. We're looking at page 78. And just to show you all here this. The second level of explanation to appear regularly in the evidence pertaining to mysteries is that of allegory. This has attracted less attention and sympathy from scholars because it seems a far cry from what is usually considered mystic, belonging instead to dry rhetorical exercises. And I'll skip here a little bit. One ought to keep distinct, however, the two directions of allegoric elaboration. On one hand, there are abstract conceptions secondarily clothed in costed mythical garb, from prudish psychomia to the Pilgrim's Progress. On the other hand, there is a traditional text or tale that is partially decoded with reference to a more rationalistic system of thought. This was done mainly with Homer, as we explained, Leon, and with the Old Testament in a later period. In the first case, the clothes may be thrown away with a change of fashion, whereas in another case, there always remains some unexplained and tantalizing residue. Allegoric interpretations have been exhaustively dealt with in relation to Stoics, Jews, and Christians. Regarding its use in pre-Hellenistic times, because I tell you guys, this is the Hellenistic area. Greek culture is roaming rapid here. If you watch my prior videos, I told you that the Old Testament and the New Testament are both written in Koine Greek. And it's not just coincidence that it's written in Greek. And if we're doing the Elusian mysteries, you'll see that they put stories. You see where I'm going at now. They're going with stories to derive different allegories, different things. You can't take this literal. And I may stop here because people say, oh no, we had the Old Testament written down in Hebrew. No, we do not. It was by Ptolemy II of Philadelphia is where we get the Old Testament in Greek. And already, this is 600 BCE, so all these stories are going on. All these rituals, all these cults, these mystery schools, they're going on rapidly right now. So it's not weird to think that maybe they put elements of certain stories to give you allegories of the body and about the heavens, as above, so below. So just want to segue that little part to make a connection for you all that's really been watching my videos. That's for you guys. But to continue, in pre-Hellenistic times, a most important text has come to light with the Papyrus of Dervine. In fact, it is a prosecuted worldview centering on nature, refined but not basically changed by the Stoics, that provides the reinforced system for this earlier form of Greek allegory. Not very much attention, however, has been paid to the fact that, beginning with the Hellenistic age, allegory has commonly been called mystic. Like I said, people, this has been going on for hundreds, decades, more than that, with all these stories being retreated into different sects. For the Egyptians, the Greeks, and the Romans, because we'll be touching up more about different ones. So, to continue, most explicit is Demetrius in his book on style. What is summarized but not overtly expressed is more frightening. What is clear and metaphysically despised like naked man. Therefore, the mysteries too are expressed in the form of allegory in order to arouse consternation and dread, just as they perform in darkness and at night. Marcubera's conqueress, quote, plain and naked expositions of herself is a repugnant to nature. She wishes her secrets to be treated by myth. Thus, the mysteries themselves are hidden in the tunnels of figurative expression, so that not even to the initiate the nature of such relatives may present herself naked, but only an elite may know about the real secret, through the interpretation furnished by wisdom, while the rest may be content to venerate the mysteries defended by those figurative expressions against banality. Bam! And just I just explained, these are all stories to give you allegories about astrology and about the human body. But if you don't know how to read these stories and get the allegories out of them, you're going to get the basic version. And I feel like that's what's been happening to a bunch of all these stories. No one's giving you it in context. No one's giving it to you like this. And that's why I had to give it to you all and show you all that it's all here. It's just a certain way of reading this all that you need to take part in. And I'm going to say it here again, and this is why I started off with Greek. If you don't understand Greek culture, their stories, and the history of how they came to be and dominated towards that whole east side, you're not going to get any of this. You're not going to understand the deeper texts to the Bible and the hidden codes. Because as I said before, this was all written in Greek, first and foremost, and then translated to then Hebrew, and then you get the Spanish also. But this is what I mean. You have to pay close attention to the Greeks. They played a main big role in all of this. And if I don't get this out and give it to you guys in context, you won't get this. So, just wanted to put this out. So, anywho, this was the first part into the initiation to the mysteries, the Elusian mysteries. I will be doing part 2 soon. Just wanted to get this out for you all, and I can't stress this enough. This is all allegories, people. You can't take this for face value. There's deeper meanings in these stories, and you have to decode all of this. And it deals with history, etymology, astrology, numerology, the functions of the body, and so much more. It's just crazy when you really get into this. And like I said, you got to be crazy about this, like I am, because people just don't have the time for all this information. But there's a bigger picture to be taught, and if you don't get this, I'm gonna give you. I'll say it right now. This is for future videos, but everybody talks about reincarnation, how it's a good thing, and stuff like that. If you know about the ancients and what they spoke about, they thought about ending this cycle. It's not cool to just keep coming back here. I mean, some people may think it's cool, but we are more than just physical bodies. We are infinite energetic beings with infinite light energy. This may sound crazy to some people, and to some people you may be like, oh, I know where this guy's going, but I don't want to get too much ahead of myself. But you have the power. You watching this video right now, you can elevate yourself to a higher consciousness, and it's all hidden in these stories, in these texts, and you just got to figure out how to decode it. And I will be touching more about that. I don't want to get out of a lot of people's heads. That probably flew over some people's heads. But like I said, we'll be getting into all of this. But pay attention to these stories. And I'll be dissecting them all for you and deep diving them all like this. But like I said, I didn't touch on everything. There's other stuff that I missed but I felt like these wanted to give you guys the Elusian mysteries and these certain things of which I felt like was important to portray to you guys. So, like I said, if you want a deeper dive into the Elusive mysteries, there's a bunch of books. Again, I'll show you my books if you haven't watched the beginning. Again, Mystery Cults of the Ancient World. Initiation to the Mysteries of the Ancient World. And last but not least, Ancient Mystery Cults by Walter Ducker. These three were really good for me getting an insight into all this so I can actually portray it to you guys to give you all a more of a academic view into all this, and just people not just spewing some stuff out but then you can't really look it up. So again, my references, please, like I say, please do your research also to see all this, hear what I have to say, but do your research too. But again, thank you for taking the time to watch this. I really enjoyed giving it to you all like this, a more better view and outlook into it. So there's more to meets the eye, and there's more to come. But anywho, before I go, meditation is the key. I'm telling you. Meditation, eating healthy, working out, and decalcify your pineal gland. Just a little hint, but anywho, I'll see you all in the next video, and I appreciate you all. Thank you. See you all soon.